as indeed almost all other societies in the world. However, before I proceed further, I would like to define what is politics. According to Chambers' Dictionary, politics is the art or science of government. My next task will be to analyze the position of the African woman in politics, the role she has played in the past, her present role, and finally, the way forward. In doing this, I shall also be highlighting some African women politicians. Historically, the African woman's place has always been in the home to nurture the family and give birth to children. Many African societies adhere to the Victorian adage that children should be seen and not heard. In this instance, we can exchange the word children for women. In some societies, women were not even seen, let alone heard. Nevertheless, some women in ancient times have been able to make significant contributions in governance in their various domains. Ancient Egyptian history abounds with women who played a significant role in the government of their country. An example is Queen Hatshepsut, who was joint ruler of ancient Egypt with her brother. This woman was an architect and initiated many building programs and helped to expand Egypt. She even went as far as what is now known as modern Sudan in search of trade. In fact, she was the real power behind the throne. If we go back to biblical times, the Queen of Sheba, a kingdom in what is now modern Ethiopia, was a renowned ruler in her time. There's also the famous Amina of Zaria, who ruled an empire that covered a large part of northern Nigeria in the 16th century and is reputed to have built the city walls of Zaria. She conquered many towns in northern Nigeria. The Queen Mothers of Ghana were also reputed to be the power behind the throne. In southwestern Nigeria, there was the famous Madame Tinubu, who was essentially a businesswoman dealing in salt, tobacco, and slaves. She made her incursion into politics when in 1846, the king of Lagos, Oba Akitoye, was deposed. Madame Tinubu backed Akitoye and in 1851 restored him to the throne. She was seen as a threat by the Lagos elite and was banished to Abeokuta, where she became an arms dealer, supplying arms to the Egba during their war with Dahomey, whom they defeated in 1864. For this, she was rewarded with the prestigious title of Iyalode, which gave her a voice in Egba politics. Although she was married, little is known of her husband, and she died childless in 1889. On her death, she was given a state burial. Some women did try to influence politics in the life of their people during the colonial era. Here, I would like to mention Queen Juliana of Guinea-Bissau, who led a rebellion against the Portuguese colonialists and was eventually subjugated. In Nigeria, the women of Aba rioted, protesting colonial oppression. Many African women also took part in the struggle for independence. In post-colonial Africa, with many countries gaining their independence, most African countries adopted the system of universal adult suffrage, and in most cases, the parliamentary systems of their colonial masters. Whilst these systems should have worked to the advantage of women, it put them at a further disadvantage. The cause of this is that political parties were formed by men and had little room for women. Although many women had by now acquired an education, few could boast of being educated to the same level as their male counterparts. These women, who had taken part in the struggle for independence, found that they were marginalized when it came to being fielded for parliamentary seats or political appointments. In order to appease these women, some political parties devised the instrument of women's wings. In most cases, the women's wings were formed mainly to provide entertainment and refreshments at the campaign rallies of the men, and of course to mobilize other women to vote for the men. These women's wings were reduced to singing, dancing, and clapping instruments to boost the political campaigns of the men.
The confirmation, the reaffirmation, and the revival of the vision of Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for our socio-economic and cultural emancipation as men, as women, as a people, and as a nation. What I represent is the truth that death cannot defeat us. Death cannot defeat us. A strong message, a powerful vision, even if it's submerged for a while, has to rise and shine. And this revival entails revisiting, and if you will, re-engineering that vision and adapting it to changing circumstances in the present time. And in the process of doing so, underscoring the urgency of our women's concerns. The call for economic self-reliance, social justice, national cohesion, and greater continental integration acquire special relevance today because sustainable economic development that impacts on all of us, but especially our women and their development, is still very much out of reach. Women empowerment is crucial to our development agenda. In order to increase access to credit, in my small constituency in the southwest of Ghana, I have adopted a private company that is running a microcredit scheme to give cheap credit to women to help them begin small businesses. Our quest for social justice today includes comprehensive democracy that goes way beyond multi-party elections. The eminent Ghanaian educationist, Dr. James Aggrey, summarized it all when he said, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Our political effectiveness will depend on our ability to use the voice, our voice, to publicize issues of concern to women and to the youth, to enforce constitutional commitments to women's equal rights. Our time as women leaders, our time has come. Let all of us, let us stand out and be counted as we move decisively to occupy our rightful place in the political space that is opening ahead of us. Thank you very much for listening, and may we be guided. May we be guided to promote the welfare of our people and to serve our people with humility, with grace, and with dignity.